at number 27 on the Iconic 100 list is the 1976 Topps Walter Payton rookie card. And here to talk with us about it today, we're bringing back Corey. You know him as Yamwax from Instagram. Corey, what do you think about where this card came in at number 27? It's certainly one of the most iconic football cards of all time.
I love to see that card is at number 27. I think it's giving the great Walter Payton his due. In my mind, greatest running back of all time when you combine the stats that he put up, but for how long he did it for. I think Jim Brown is right there. And with the Jim Brown rookie in this card are among my favorite probably football cards ever.
Yeah, I think of the Jim Brown as well. I think of that card. I think of the Jerry Rice card. And I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but these are three of the most iconic cards of all time. A couple of them we still have to see on the list. But I remember Walter Payton's one of the first athletes that I remember when he passed away being this sort of like really tragic moment for the sports collecting community. He'd recently had some autographs that had been signed and they became ultra popular, but so did his rookie card, especially, copies that are in high grade. And I think that sort of has stood the test of time. It's still a card today that people view as really iconic. Other than how great he was as a player and how special it is, what do you think about this card makes it so iconic and recognizable?
I think there's so much to love about that card. A fantastic profile photo. Just that those early years, you forget that Walter Payton was playing even in the 70s because he was so great in the 80s. I remember the 80, the Super Bowl Bears and the Super Bowl Shuffle and all of that. And he was such a big part of culture in the 80s, but this guy was playing 76 and great right off the bat. But a beautiful portrait. And I think, Walter Payton is somebody who, inspired greatness. He ran up that famous hill where he would take his teammates out to, and they'd throw up halfway up it, and he'd run up and down it 5 more times, right? And he was someone that my dad mentioned a lot as someone to look towards. My dad was a Chicago Bears fan, but to have that work ethic, and then known to be a really good person. Wrote a book, one of the only books I've ever known my dad to read. So he was just a saint in my family in a lot of ways, and a hero and an icon. But that card, that picture is just stellar. And I gotta say, every time I see one at a show, I just want to buy it. And it's almost, you hear about, serial killers. They'll find that serial killers have like 7 copies of Catcher in the Rye. I don't know what it says about me that I have like 8 copies of the Walter Payton rookie, but I can't help myself and buy one whenever I see it at a good deal.
As we were preparing to record this session, I was reading off to you some of the cards that were available. And when I mentioned this card, you kind of stopped and were like, I really want to do that card. And I thought that was really cool because I think, what people I hope love about this series is they can see the passion of collectors, right? You have a passion for this card. Owning 7 or 8 copies of the same card, Corey, I don't know if there's a greater sign. Before we go, as you think about this card and as you want to let people know what elements of the card, other than who Walter Payton was in the set and why it's important, but from a technical perspective, when people are looking at this card, what are some things that they should be looking at to determine to determine sort of better copies from other copies?
Well, centering is something that you often see on these, and miscuts. There can be wild miscuts, and it's almost fun, I think, to own sort of one of the wild miscuts from the 70s to have in your collection alongside of a great copy to show people the difference. But you've got, of course, with age, the color fades and everything. But I tell you what, that legacy of Walter Payton, that doesn't fade. And I think one of the biggest things I'd want to leave you with is why I respect him so much is he's a throwback. He's back to the 70s and the 80s when people just played games. Today's running backs seem to wear out sometimes in 3, 4, 5 seasons. Walter Payton played 170 consecutive games, started in 170 consecutive games. That's like over 10 seasons. And that's just insane to me and shows how durable and how much he committed to his body in a time before, people really weren't doing that in the NFL.
Amazing perspective and great knowledge sharing. Corey, thanks again for helping us go through card number 27 on the Iconic 100 list, the Walter Payton rookie card. Tomorrow we'll be back with another guest. And until then, happy collecting.